Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, I'm just waiting for my guest to connect. We're having a few technical glitches here, but we'll be getting that started shortly, and we'll be live soon. Thank you for your patience. All right, so guys, we're gonna go live here. I'm gonna go switch off of this lovely little thing I composed here, and we're just gonna head live anyways with the things that we're just gonna fix them as we get along here. I'm gonna activate. I think I've got the second microphone on there. Mark, can you say something?
Yes, I can.
Oh, perfect. We can at least hear you. I don't know if we'll be able to see you, but we can definitely hear you. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll work. All right. So we got the great. You know what? The picture froze from the the WeChat earlier. Let me see if I can fix your picture so that it shows what it should, like the updated picture of what's
Yeah, I
going on
can't see
here.
your picture, by the way.
That's totally fine. Totally.
Okay.
I mean, it would be great if you could, but you'll be you'll be visible in just a moment here. I'm just gonna put yours set yours to the correct capture, and let's see here, because now we're using FaceTime instead. Just have to adjust things a little bit. There we go. And then I'll just make this super big, and even bigger would be good. All right, that's probably about as good as it gets here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will adjust. We'll adjust that as we need to. It's not perfect, but it'll do for now. And So welcome, Mark, to my live stream here. You'll be able to see like the full kind of effects here of what we're doing here. It's actually quite cool, the effects we have on for the live stream, rather than just doing a kind of a zoom here. I run it, a full kind of presentation, production, and everything. So will definitely be available on YouTube and Twitch afterwards, and can definitely check it out. But anyways, I didn't talk to you a whole lot about what I'm doing here. Do you have any questions before we start?
Um, Not really. I think I'll find out as we go along.
All right, that's a good attitude to have about it. I I won't disturb you too much. I'm sure. None of this is going to be like stuff that you know at least don't feel comfortable about. You know.
Hmm.
Uh, so I've been working a lot on. Why do you want to introduce yourself here? We're talking about holistic methods in music today and holistic practice. Um,
Hmm.
but do you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction too, or?
Yes. I took I took brass lessons from one of the better brass teachers in Boston at the time, a man by the name of John Coffey.
Oh yeah,
I went to University of South Carolina where I studied voice. I worked 25 years in various schools and teaching privately,
that's
both
great.
both voice and instrumental music. I
Yeah.
used to teach at King Philip School System
Hmm.
and in Taunton also.
Cool. It's a great. It's actually really a lot of things that you've done too. I mentioned in the advertisement that you also teach some English lessons with Chinese students as well.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool too. A lot of different things that are going on for you, which are
Hmm.
kind of awesome. Um, so I guess to bring you up to speed with kind of what I'm my whole thing is about here. I'm trying to kind of flip the whole idea of private lessons on its side, um, and kind of change the idea of how we assess, not just assess, but how we train our musicians, both young and old.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like maybe just give you a little introduction to the program here. There's some visuals you probably can't see right now, but you can definitely check them out because I worked extra hard on them this time. Anyways, here it is, the Holistic Music Laboratory Program. I wish you could see this. It's got a cute little cat graphic that I borrowed from stock animations and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and It's a laboratory program. I call it a laboratory program because we're kind of experimental techniques where we focus on not just the technical aspects of your playing, um, not just the kind of measurable fundamentals parts of your playing, but also the fundamentals. So it's really kind of a it's hard to describe without just doing it. So let's just go in and so this first thing. So it's divided up into 4 pillars here,
Hmm.
and the first pillar I feel very strongly about, um, naturally, is passion. Is that in order for you to be a good player, to reach your full potential, which is what it's all about, is you got to have that passion and that drive. You got to try to recognize that could be different for anybody that that could be very different for anybody that walks into our program. Um, I describe it so in one of my first kind of descriptions about this, I quote Henry Matisse here. It's that creativity takes courage. You know,
Hmm.
and when it comes to authenticity in art, it can sometimes be a little bit hard to share that art with other people, to feel confident in yourself to do it, um, especially if you feel passionate about that. It can sort of feel like walking down the street in your underwear.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a nightmare, really, when you think about it. It could be really scary. So, but I gave the example of working in retail in 2008, which was an incredible experience for other reasons besides it not really being a good fit for me. But in spite of the fact that I was making enough money, and I actually, bought some really nice things for my family while I was there, like, Christmas presents and stuff like that. I was able to finally contribute to them. And that made me feel really good. But I wasn't playing anymore. I wasn't
Hmm.
playing, and I was literally so depressed. I don't know. Have you ever had that experience, Mark?
Yes, yes, I have. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I became a singer, and also one of the reasons why I happen to be a very good whistler. Because no matter where you are, you can bring that music with you.
I love it. You got any tunes you can whistle for us, or
That's
that's
from that's
awesome.
the that's the piccolo
Start.
part from Stars and Stripes.
Yeah, I
Yes,
was gonna say Stars and Stripes.
yeah, from the yeah, and of course the idea is eventually to be able to whistle that fast in, around 120 beats per minute.
Oh goodness. It
Yes.
reminds me of the trombone choir I saw that did that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was really impressive then too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. So you figured out early on that you could you kind of needed that music in your life, no matter
Yes.
what you did.
Well, it's a little more to it than that, Nate. Is the idea the best musician is a person who is a musical instrument.
That's interesting. I
That's
I
where it starts.
I think I can agree with that. I'm not sure if I agree with it for the same reasons though. I might have different reason on it. I feel like that how much of it philosophically when I think about it. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
my brass instruments in behind me, and
Yes.
you know wherever I go with my brass instruments, I can play my brass music. I can play trumpet wherever I pick my trumpet, or my trombone wherever I play my trombone.
Mm-hmm.
But if my trombone and my trumpet ended up on a different plane somewhere, would
Well,
they
yeah.
play themselves?
Yes.
And in that case, which is the instrument? Which is more the instrument? Is it the instrument itself, or is it me acting on the instrument to make the music and something like that? It's kind of an interesting thought to.
You could call it a yin and yang relationship. You
Yeah.
could call it, just a way in which it completes you, to express yourself. Like, like language. I mean, everybody in America speaks English. In other countries, they speak other languages. And the language itself is really the instrument.
Hmm.
And that indeed carries it on. And I mean, there's a reason why they call it language arts.
Mm-hmm.
They don't call it language science, do they?
Could be a little bit of both, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, music can be. You think about the physics involved in music. You especially. Your father especially. My goodness. You know, I mean, your father must be probably one of the greatest musical physicists I know of.
Oh, he was a he's a he is a sound engineer still. He does
Yes,
live sound still,
yes,
and highly sought after in that field actually.
yes.
Um,
Because he not only is the instrument playing on, shall we say, on a stage, but he is able to capture what the room does to the music.
yeah.
And that is very much with, talk about holistic attitude towards music, very holistic.
It's actually not a bad segue. The passion part I think is not a hard thing for people to kind of get on board with.
Hmm.
Um, we all want to do what we're passionate for, even if it's deep down inside. I know friends and family that they either are in a job that they really love and they're very passionate about it, and it doesn't really matter how much it pays or what the benefits would be for it. And then
Yeah.
some are just kind of doing it to get the paycheck, and I
Sure.
respect that too. By the way, I respect the hustle on that. So it's
Well,
don't get me wrong here. I do
I mean,
respect that.
shall we say it? It's created by a different motivation. Usually, a person who's in a job that they don't like, they do it because they need the money,
Exactly,
and they
exactly.
have, family bills and this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I get that. And I feel like there are some disconnects with my kind of philosophy on that. I do feel like I don't feel like passion is enough to make the career, but it is like one of those you can't make the career without the passion. Also, it's
Hmm.
kind of like you do need both. But if you just have passion and then none of the other parts of it, it's going to be like an uphill battle. It's kind of like my philosophy on talent versus hard worker. You know,
Yes.
you got somebody who is incredibly talented that never actually
Hmm.
realizes their ability because they just never want to put in the work or never want to put in the effort for
Yeah.
it, or just don't really care. They don't have the
Hmm.
passion to go there, and
Hmm.
that's fine. But I feel like hard worker wins out every time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
um,
I mean, you look at the hardest working man in show business, right?
mm,
Um, or you look at there's this one Latin American woman who's dead now called Celia Cruz,
mm,
and that woman there just works and works, and she insists that everybody, all the musicians with her, have to work at the same level.
mm,
And what's her production like? Like it's fantastic. She takes you to a place of rhythm and sound and dance and a complete experience on an artistic level that really cannot be equaled
that's
in
really cool.
in my opinion. Yes, in my opinion. And that's what it takes. You have to be one. You have to be one with the music. You have to be one with the drive for it all. The purpose of expression is, again, music is the language. And what you're communicating is something you can't communicate with words.
Right.
Very much like a painter. A painter cannot communicate what he's doing with words.
Mm,
As a dancer cannot really sit there and talk about and make you feel the same as when you're watching them dance. Not possible. So each is a level of communication that goes beyond, transcends um, verbal speech.
really cool. Really cool. Hard to agree on that. So the next part of this, because I think we've sufficiently covered the passion bit here. Um, it's basically my feelings is that if you can kind of come to that conclusion where instead of just kind of wondering what's missing in your life, really do an inventory of it and try to figure out what that is. And if you can imagine life without music or life without your art, um, then and be okay with it, then that's one thing. But if you can't, then walking down the street in your underwear is no longer that same kind of nightmare anymore. That's actually kind of comfy by
Yes, it
comparison.
is. Yeah, I can just see me now in my whitey tighties.
Not sure if that's the point I was trying to make, but here we are. So we've sufficiently covered passion. Well, I want to go to the next part here is connection. And under connections, I kind of thought there were types of connections that we could kind of equate here. The first
Hmm.
image I wanted to show here is I have a bunch of people hanging. I think they're kids. Oh no, not kids. Looks like maybe some kids, but whatever. They're like holding on to each other's wrists,
Hmm.
and they're kind of almost. It's almost like they're making a star with their formation, and everybody's holding on to each other's wrist. And
Hmm.
that's one type of connection. I feel like the musical connection is much more intimate. It's like holding the hand with a lover, almost,
Hmm.
or a friend.
Hmm.
It's that kind of more intimate relationship. It's um at least in the beginnings part of it, like the lowest level. We talk about the
Mm-hmm.
micro and the macro. The macro is really important too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes I kind of contradict myself. I go, emphasize the macro or the micro more. And in this case, I think the micro here of the, kind of close, intimate relationship that you can have with your music, with your art, is
Mm-hmm.
kind of mission critical to
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is, the imagery I would use to describe it is exactly that. It's one hand holding another. Um, it keeps it's kind of it's pure, it's simple, it's it's intimate, it's close.
Yes.
Um, there's a lot of complications that come with those added relationships when you have more than one hand, more than
Mm-hmm.
two hands in the process there. And
Yes.
eventually the macro of that is if you're in an ensemble, even a chamber ensemble, that's where that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that
Well,
relationship becomes much more important.
it's really sometimes I think it's a bit more about love.
Yeah.
Okay. The soloist, who does the soloist make love to? The soloist makes love to the audience, or makes love to himself, maybe, huh? Okay. The 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 uh, the 17-piece band member works in an ensemble that must be as tight as any machine, but guided on a spirit of the moment.
Hmm.
A spirit of the moment. Again, that concept of holistic idea of music or art expression that comes from your heart. Yes, I mean, the notes are on the page, the timing is there, but there's still something else that you add to it, isn't there?
Right. Right. And that's
So,
this is something else that I've been like kind of campaigning for in my program is that we have these I'm not going to discount a you'll see later when I describe the actual program that I have to work on
mm-hmm,
this um that I actually the fundamentals are a absolute solid key component of it.
mm-hmm,
But it's again it's the micro. It's
mm-hmm,
not the macro. This is where I'm going to reverse now. Like I said I was going to do. The micro versus the macro. The macro is the sentiment and the overall effect and the purpose of your music. The um, micro is everything that it takes to produce that effect and that connection.
mm-hmm.
And that's down to your lip slurs, that's down to your embouchure, that's down to your articulation, it's down to the very fine, motor skills that are required for all of the things that we do.
Yes.
So,
So the macro is the higher order.
right. Yeah.
Yes, where the micro is how you get there,
Yeah, the essential
the
pieces.
details, the
Yeah,
details.
the
Yes,
atoms.
yes, yes. The details on how do we make this happen?
Right. And
Hmm.
they're all important. You can't have one without the other. A lot of this, and this is exactly what I mean with the holistic parts of this, is that none of these components are, in my mind, sufficient on their own.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of people out there, I'm sure, that work without, you know, a great technique. Even maybe they're really good at carrying themselves with the sentiment. And
Mm-hmm.
if I had to choose one or the other, if I really don't make me choose, but if I had to, I'd probably choose that still. I
Yes.
think I would still choose the sentiment over the sentiment and the emotional kind of purpose of the music
Well,
rather than
again, it's all about communication. I mean, you look at what's his name there from for different groups. Uh, oh, I can't think of his name now. Okay, um, but you look at any lead singer, and he really sounds like garbage. Okay, but he still communicates like Mick Jagger. There we go. Mick Jagger is a good example of that. The man has a terrible voice.
we're just like slamming Mick Jagger right here.
Okay, but he is a great communicator. He communicates on so many levels to his audience,
Mm.
and that is what it's all about. Um, you know, there are there are many others that are like that too. Um, oh, I'm trying to think of his another guy, old folk guitar singer there, who's still famous. His first album, he didn't even sing it in tune, but the album sold out.
Mm.
Why? Because he was, Dylan. There we go. That's his
Oh,
name,
okay,
Dylan.
okay.
All right. His,
Yeah.
his album sold out, even
Oh,
though
yeah.
it sounded like garbage.
Well, I'm gonna hold up on there because like
Yeah.
these guys are indisputable, masters at their crafts,
Yes.
and they've got long, lengthy, successful careers and stuff like that.
They are masters of communication.
Mm.
Exactly. Exactly. But then again, you'll see some, you may go to the opera and see this absolutely amazing singer,
Mm.
beautiful singer, just makes you really, really feel. But no one has ever heard of him.
That's
Be
true. Yeah.
honest, you know. So you have that going on.
So,
Hmm.
come bringing this back here because I think that we've touched upon a couple things in there. I
Hmm.
want to come back to those guys again, because I think that there's definitely something that can be said for a later pillar here. One of the other pillars we have, the next one is about purpose, and this
Hmm.
is in general. I feel like, for me, maybe more so than it should be for me. It tends to be like one of the more upfront, more important things for me is purpose of the music here, and it can give a number of reasons why that is the case. We're talking about purpose here. Is that
Hmm.
quite often creative artists have like different purposes here. So I got a woman who's typing. Sometimes a purpose is a kind of a self centered kind of thing. Our purpose
Hmm.
is to leave our legacy, to
Yeah.
feel fulfilled, and
Mm.
ultimately I think like that's most of the goal.
Yes.
Most of the goals that we have are kind of contingent on that. Some people, their goals are much more simpler, or maybe complicated here. This is a
Well,
family playing together,
yeah.
and
Or personal gratification. You know,
maybe, well, yeah, or
yeah.
or you know
You're,
having
you're
their
walking
family.
down the street. You're whistling a song, and no one can hear you. Why do you do it? Okay, you're singing. You're singing a song. It could be, it could be an aria. Okay, no one's hearing it. Who
Hmm.
does hear it? I hear it.
Hmm.
I do it. Okay, so there's a lot of it is a lot of music we do this for selfish reasons, and that should be the primary motivation because you won't do it if you don't want to.
I think in general. So I had a talk with I'm working with Ben Nguyen, and um, he meant we had a talk on one of his live streams at one point, and
Hmm.
he mentioned how that this there is like definitely a not like a necessarily self-centered, but like definitely a more self-oriented part of this that's really important. Also, it's not like, oh, self-centered to the point of me first and nobody else gets any or anything like that. It's more like,
Well, yeah.
you know you need to feel this fulfillment in order to help, to if you're fulfillment. So take the image I put up is, being with the family here,
Hmm.
having a family and sharing that, they're being able to share fun times with them, being very passionate about taking care of them and providing them with positive experience. So that's one thing that you can do. You also can be like for your audience, being
Hmm.
entertaining, and that's the next thing I had up to show up there.
Hmm.
So these are all like kind of self-centered goals. So if you think about it, because um, the making somebody else feel happy, um, you do that, but how you first of all you have to genuinely be able to tell if it's made somebody happy. I guess you could tell if they're smiling, but when you think about it, like how does that make you feel when you make somebody happy?
Mm-hmm.
Naturally,
Or aren't you creating your own little party
that's it.
where yes, you are making other people happy, but you're making them happy and they're making you happy too by listening to you and agreeing with you. Hey, that's nice. And you think, yeah, I think it's nice too, you know? And that's the feeling you're all getting from all of this.
Yeah.
And that is, again, a, a holistic, present, related experience.
I can agree with that. It's really great. We're coming to these conclusions together here. I know I shouldn't have had any doubt about that. Actually, that's there weren't any doubts to begin with. That's why I chose to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I figured that it would be a good conversation about this. So there's definitely have been some interesting turns on it too. So that's kind of cool. Um, so going back to authenticity, because we mentioned Dylan and Mick Jagger,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna press you on that because I'm not sure. I'm looking at the numbers for this live stream. It keeps going up and down on active viewers, and I noticed shortly after we slammed Mick Jagger, we
Everything
had
went.
three. Yeah, we had three viewers, and then we had one, which I'm sure is the bot moderator on Twitch, actually. So it's not even a real person. So,
Yeah.
um, which is okay. I imagine there's some contentious points when we talk about holistic things, anyways. Like
Oh, well, but please, I'd like you all to understand. I like Mick Jagger. He's a great communicator.
I like,
I like Dylan. Dylan
yeah.
made some fantastic things.
I
Okay.
think what I like the most about both of them here, and I think you can agree with me on this, besides the communication part,
Yes.
is the authenticity.
Yes. Oh, they're definitely, both of them are very authentic.
The authenticity is kind of like the game changer. In fact, I don't think I did. I make even make any other. I didn't even think I made any other slides for authenticity. I
Hmm.
literally just because authenticity, it was a hard one. I couldn't find any like stock footage for authenticity. It's like, what do you find for that? Like, what is? How do you picture authenticity without being inauthentic or not just being the opposite of that? It's really really difficult. I think you could show artists that are authentic. I feel like Jackson Pollock, for example, he's
Hmm.
one of my favorite
Yes.
artists, and I look at him. I use him and John Cage as a good example. Um, I have a kind of a love hate relationship with John Cage. I go back and forth. There's some things that I like of his that are I feel are incredibly authentic, and then some I think are like Andy Warhol kind of ripoffs.
Hmm.
Um, but when I looked at Jackson Pollock's painting, I feel something. I can't
Hmm.
tell you that. I feel that there's like chaos and organization, but it feels organic. It feels natural, like this is supposed to be there for me.
Yes.
And when I look at the duplicate kind of style that John Cage had done, like that, if you looked at them side by side, they look very similar, like visually, but there's something missing, and you can tell the difference because it doesn't make you feel the same way.
Hmm. Hmm.
It feels more sterile to me.
Hmm.
Like there's something that's not there.
But isn't that a feeling also?
It is, yeah, and that's a very popular thing that drives me and a lot of musicians crazy about John Cage.
Yes. Okay.
Is
Or, you mentioned Andy Warhol. Okay.
mm-hmm.
He didn't do anything unless he could make money at it.
That's fair. That's a
Yeah. Okay.
motivation.
That was his only motivation. He'll tell you, he would tell you that. He was a businessman first. He was a businessman first, and then he was an artist.
Hmm.
And he would never do anything unless he got paid for it. So there are some people like that. The rest of us, if we expected to be paid for everything we do, would starve to death.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, so
Uh,
but my argument here with my program here, I don't did I do the I may have actually wrote it down. I didn't actually put it as part of the presentation, did I? Wow, that
mm,
was really silly. I should have put that I should have actually made it part of the presentation. I came up with
yes.
great names for everything.
Yep.
So this is the part I'm gonna say that um, I because I've seen it and I know successful musicians. I've got quite a few friends that were very successful at what they do,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're fantastic musicians. They're talented, but they've also got things that I've kind of taken in inventory of the things that I feel are kind of important. In the authenticity is the big one. The authenticity is the big one. Um, you know why? Do you know why I think there's like lots of rock bands out there that play like cover bands and stuff like that, and they make money. Um, but they're not making the same money as the original artist, right?
No.
No, definitely not. Um, but if you look at somebody who is doing, maybe not spending, maybe it's easier for them to create this art because it's authentic to them, and they create this something like, let's see, take any EDM artist,
Mm-hmm.
out there that's creating stuff, and they are creation machines, most of them, by the way. They produce like insane amounts of content and music in a very short amount of time, and they spend a lot of attention to detail in their parts of it. But if you had that same crowd that was at the bar listening to the cover band, they'd be like, oh, what is this? It doesn't feel like there's any effort at all in that. Of course, we know that's not true, but
Mm-hmm.
it's authenticity that makes they're getting gigs that are paying them so much more money
Mm-hmm.
in general. And I'm not
Yes.
saying that as a general rule, but like they're making more money than playing somebody else's tunes.
Yes.
You know. So I found my pillars here. The pillar number one is this idea of holistic brass, um, holistic brass camp, and it's not like a camp. It's just kind of like I used to camp as kind of a group. And what we're going to do is we're going to have weekly group lessons where we kind of try to recenter our focus to our own playing and our own personal best. We're going to warm up fundamentals and um, let me see, read the things here. I'm blanking on this. I shouldn't be blanking on all this stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll be working on kind of like emphasizing the important stuff, like um, seeing the positive things. We have a great, sorry, gratitude is the part of it. So it's almost like if if we had like a morning prayer almost, but not really a prayer. It's like um
Think of it more like aerobic exercise where you're warming the body up.
yeah, actually that's really a great idea. I've always thought about Tai Chi as
Mm-hmm.
um a really good analog for it too.
Yep.
Where you're feeling the energy around you and trying to
Mm-hmm.
connect with the energy so that you can channel it and borrow it and
Yes.
share it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I want to definitely get people warmed up every single week. So we start the week with a warm up, where we address our gratitude. We express our gratefulness for the gifts that we're given as musicians in this world, realizing that really only 1 or 2% of the population actually can do what we do anyways at all,
Mm-hmm.
and even less of that can do it well. um, so the program will stress practicing every day, but effective practice in every day. And we'll kind of be in that kind of warm up that we do at the beginning of the week, where we focus on the mindfulness of practicing. And we kind of trying to recenter and make sure that we've got the correct mindset going into the week, so we can practice and look at things, in a reasonable light. So, like if you're feeling like sick to your stomach or something like that, probably not a good time to play. And or if you feel like it's something you need to play through, I feel like because I talked to another trombone teacher about that. They're like, usually I just play right through it. You know what? If that's what you feel you need to do, then you need to do it, because sometimes you do have to play through it. Just to
Sure, if
break
you're in the
through.
performance and you're not feeling well, too bad.
Yeah,
Suck it
sometimes
up.
it's that. Sometimes it's that.
Suck it
Well,
up.
even when you're practicing, sometimes I feel like if you're like, oh, I'm not getting that high A, and you push just a little bit harder, maybe you get that high A, and you feel so much better because you got it. So that's a possibility too. But if you don't, and that's why you want to just kind of like hang off of it, well, that's okay too. Oh, it looks like, am I losing Mark? I may have lost Mark here. All right, I'll head over here to the main camera here. If he comes back and he's got the microphone connected. So the last parts of it, we are going to focus in those sessions too. We work on being kind for your mistakes. So kind of remembering that we are our own worst critics here, and we can definitely be kinder to ourselves about our mistakes. If we make a mistake in our practice, it's literally not the end of the world. Celebrating our successes for things. If you pushed through and got that high A, awesome. That's great. Back to the pillars real quick here, because I know I went really, really long on this. We have what I call singularity sessions. And those are going to be, I got this mixed up. The singularity sessions are what I described there, where we are feeling the gratitude, the warm up. The holistic boot camp, brass boot camp, that is going to be our hyper-focused micro, where we focus on the techniques and fundamentals. So, and it's very specific to the needs of the person who we're dealing with, the student. So, we literally will trim all of the fat around what is, necessary for the successful practice to increase your abilities in playing and your techniques quickly, and not spend lots of times on techniques that are already at level, kind of balancing that out. The singularity sessions are where we get together for the warm-ups. If you're feeling like this isn't, you're feeling overwhelmed with everything in there, we have what's called lifeboat sessions, which are one-on-one sessions where you come in and, Pillar 1, the holistic brass camp is a one-on-one with exercises throughout the week. Pillar 3 is the lifeboat sessions, and the lifeboat sessions are, I need a hand. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I need help. And that's where you get your lifeboat sessions, and you can get help from me. And then we can get help from the group as well. So those are kind of critical things there. I don't want to take a lot of time on here, but you can definitely comment or message me if you have questions about here. If you have any comments about what our live stream was about today, I'm more than happy to answer anything about it. I love doing this, and I love, working on holistic music. I think it's just the coolest thing ever. So, feel free to come in and, talk to me about this stuff. It looks like I couldn't see any of the comments on Facebook. I got a bunch of comments on the Facebook one. Oh my goodness. All right. Anyways, I really appreciate your support here, and I hope that you guys will feel free to comment and definitely, talk to me if you're interested in learning more about my program. All right. I'll talk to you again next time when we review a different concept. All right. Thank you so much.